Kelly with Pins and Needles Kits, and today we are going to be working on the pop-up windsock by Fat Quarter Gypsy. It's a really fun project. This was part of our fab bag collection, and so today I'm going to show you how to make it. It's a super cute little project. I don't know if you can see all that or not. It spins around, it's got a swivel hook, it's got little tails. Fun, fun, fun to make. All right, let's talk about the pattern that we're going to be working with today. This is the Windsock Pop-Ups by Fat Quarter Gypsy. Super cute. It has a little spring that holds that that part of the windsock together or spread out. We are going to be doing this style right here. You will need a fat quarter of fabric for the lining. You'll also need mid-weight fusible interfacing, which I have right here. You're going to need 2.5-inch strips. So this is Riley Blake quatrefoil, I believe, mini quatrefoil. It's really cute. And then in the pattern you'll get the spring, the pop-up spring. And this is a very strong spring. You want to make sure that you do not cut this tape that's on the sides here until the pattern tells you to. It's very important. You'll get this little swivel hook that goes on the top to hook it to your building. You need a couple of big safety pins, and she also sends you a little label with her logo on it. It's really cute, and that's all we need to get started. So I'm going to cut my strips in the sizes that she says, and we'll get going. Your mini jelly roll that you'll be getting has 12 strips in it. You only need 10 strips for your project, so 2 of those you will just have extra. One of those 10 strips is going to be not cut right now. That's going to be the string, so you can just set that aside. And then out of the remaining strips, you're going to cut the pieces for the tails and then also for the body of the windsock. You're also going to cut 2 pieces of the fusible interfacing and your lining as well. So I have everything cut and I'm ready to put it together. For the version that we're doing, we're going to skip to page 6 of the instructions, and this is the layout for the body of the windsock. So you have a long strip that's going to be joined together with a short strip. And then short, long, short, long, short. So we'll sew all those together with a 1/4-inch seam allowance, and then we're going to sew all of those strips together lengthwise. So that's my next step. I've stitched all the strips together and pressed my seam allowances open. I'm going to turn this over and take one of the pieces of interfacing, put it with the shiny side, which is the fusible, down, and press it to the back of my body of my windsock. The label is the next step. She sends it to you extra long, and so what you want to do is find the center in between 2 of the little campers, fold it in half, and trim off the extra label. We're then going to place this approximately 1 inch from the bottom on the corner here. So I'll put my little ruler over there, move it up, and get it pinned in place. I'm going to base that on. And then what I need to do now is make marks along the bottom edge and along the top edge. And so I'm going to just use some chalk. And the first mark is 2.5 inches from the side here. So I'm going to bring this over here, and I'll mark 2.5 inches. I'll do the same at the top. And then I'll continue on with all the different marks that she has. There's 4 across the top and 4 across the bottom. Once I've marked everything, I'll then baste the tag down and fold this over and sew this in place. The lining is next. You'll take the lining, and if it has a right or wrong side, you want to make sure that you have the wrong side facing up. You'll take the other piece of interfacing and put it with the shiny side, which is the fusible, down against the wrong side of the lining. You'll then press it in place, and then you'll flip this over and you will make your marks on it similar to what you did with the front of the windsock. You want to look at the pictures carefully because these marks are just a little bit different from the marks on the front piece. So make sure that you follow the instructions and mark it accordingly. Once you finish that, you're going to take one of the strips that you put aside for your strings, and you're going to cut this in half lengthwise. So you'll have two 1 1/4 inch strips. So I've done that already with this one. So I have this strip and one more. Once you've cut them in half, you're then going to fold them in half, wrong sides together. You'll then open that up and you're going to, you're going to then press the edges to the center fold and then fold it in half and press again. You have to be careful because this is really skinny, so when you're pressing, make sure you don't burn your fingers. A little bit of steam or best press helps keep that crease in there really nice and neat. You'll then go and sew that seam all the way down on both pieces. So I'm going to do that now. Now we're going to put the strings on. So we have the lining, and we're going to take one of the strings, line it up with this line here at the bottom. This is the 2 1/4 inch one, and pin it in place. Then we're going to pin it at the top, lined up with that line up there. Alright, and then next we're going to take the little swivel hook, and we're going to slide the swivel hook on this string up to the top. Now, this is going to be lined up with, you're going to skip a line here and go to this line here. Make sure that when you do this that you don't have any twists in your string. So I've got a twist in mind, so I'm going to make sure I straighten it out. And then I'm going to go here and pin it in place. You're going to sew from the bottom here. Make sure you backstitch up to 1 inch from the top and backstitch, and you'll do the same thing on this side. So I'll go sew those, and then our second string is next. All right, now I'm going to pin this one in place. Maybe. There we go. Pin it at the top. And then we're going to take this and slide it through the swivel ring as well. Hopefully you can see that. And make sure you don't have any twists in your string, and pull this down over to the last line and pin in place. And then you're going to stitch just like you did the first one, stopping 1 inch from the top. Alright, our next step is to finish off the edges of our streamers. And there's several ways you can do that. I'm going to be using my serger. The one way you can do this is to fold under 1/4 inch, fold under again, you know, press it and top stitch it and do all the sides. That's pretty time consuming. You can also use a roll hem foot for your sewing machine, and I'll have to do a little tutorial on this because this is one of my most favorite feet. Or the easiest way is to use your serger and do a roll hem. It's a 3-thread rolled hem. You're using the right needle and your 2 loopers. You're tightening up your bottom tension and shortening your stitch. And it's super quick and fast. I've got this one started right here. It has a blade, so it cuts off the excess and turns and finishes the edge all in one step. So when you do this, you're doing it from the front of the fabric, and it just gives that edge a really nice finish. So I'm going to do that for all of my streamers, and then we'll put our windsock together. Alright, after you have the edges of your streamers finished, you're going to then put them onto the lining. So you have your lining with the part where you've sewed the streamers on, facing up. That's the right side, and the wrong side of the streamers are going to be laid against that lining. So you start about 1/4 inch in from each side. You lay your streamers out. They may have to overlap a little bit, so I laid mine out and there was not quite enough room for all of them, so you just kind of ooch them over, and mine are all overlapping just, you know, maybe like a 1/16 or so, and pin them all in place on the bottom edge. So I'm going to flip this over so you can see there's our lining. Here's the top, the little clips. So you're pinning this all on to the bottom of the lining. After you have pinned it, you'll take it over to the sewing machine and sew across, back stitching on each end. And then the next step is to sew the 10.5-inch sides together. So what you can do is kind of pin these out of the way. You kind of pin them about just right along the center there, just to keep them in place so that they don't get caught when you sew the sides together. So you can use safety pins or straight pins, whatever it is you want to do. Alright, so once I've done that, then I'm going to fold this in half and pin my raw edges, making sure that I don't have my tails or string anywhere near where I'm going to be sewing my seam. Alright, so I'm going to go and sew a 1/4 inch seam allowance right through there. Okay, our next step is to make sure that our outside is turned right side out and our inner lining is wrong side out. We are then going to slip the outside inside the lining, match up your seams and your marks and everything here. We're going to clip those in place and kind of pull this down in here so that it's straight. Makes life a lot easier. If you have a free arm on your sewing machine where you can take the tray table off and have that free arm, that makes sewing a tube like this a whole lot easier. So we'll get this all pinned and then we're going to sew this together as well with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Alright, so I'll take this over to my sewing machine, take my tray table off and sew all the way around it. Have this sewn together. Now I'm going to reach inside, grab the inside and pull it out and fold it over the lining. You have to pull all your streamers out too, it looks like. I'm going to pull these pens out of here, make it easier to grab hold of this. I don't want to stick myself. Can't remember how many I put in here. Alright. So let's pull all these streamers. I think there's still a pin in that one. There is. It looks kind of weird right now, but I promise you it's going to work out. It's going to be really fun, and I love the bright, happy colors on this. Alright, so I have all my streamers out. And got everything straightened up here. So I have my strings are hanging out the top here, and lining and everything is where it's supposed to be. Once you have it turned, you're then going to take it over to the ironing board and press it so that you are pressing the crease into this bottom right here. And I actually pressed, just like I'm holding it right here, I pressed from the inside and I turned it and pressed and turned and pressed. Then I took it over to the machine, slid this arm onto the machine and top stitched close to the bottom edge. I don't know if you can see that or not, but just right along there. Now I'm ready to put my spring inside of my windsock. Alright, now we're going to slide the spring in between the lining and the outside of the windsock. So slide your strings through, and then you're going to start putting the spring in, working it down to the bottom, in between the layers. It's kind of hard to do for the camera, but I think I can manage that. Alright, so it's heading down towards the bottom. I don't know if you can see that, but I can certainly kind of show you from the outside once I get it down in there. Alright. Just takes a little bit of work. that spring in there correctly, I actually had to take this off the table and kind of hold it up in the air to get the strings out of the way and get it all the way down. So it's now down here at the very bottom of the windsock. The next thing you have to do is you have to open up this lining. You have to peek inside of here, and you have to find where the black tape is. So I can see my black tape right there. Okay, and so the other one is directly across from it, and you can kind of feel it through the fabric. And what you want to do next is you want about halfway between each one. So I've got tape right here and then tape over here. You're going to put one of the safety pins in halfway between those two, about a couple of inches up from the bottom. And this is a really important step. So you'll put one here, and then you'll put one on the opposite side. Let me get another safety pin and take. Once you have your safety pins in place, you're going to reach in side, find your tape. See if I can find it here. And with a really sharp pair of scissors, you're going to carefully snip that tape. Let's see. Pull the tape off. And you're going to do this for both sides. The reason you want those safety pins in there is because if you didn't have that, that spring would just pop open and you would have a mess on your hands. You'd have a hard time getting it all back in. Alright, so we're going to find the other tape, do the same thing. So I'm going to get the rest of that tape out of there. Alright, so now the only thing holding that spring in there is my safety pins. So the last thing that I want to do here is I want to go and fold under about a 1/2 inch and press on my lining, a 1/2 inch on my outer side, match up all my lines and top stitch that down, making sure that I catch all of it. Okay, so I'm going to do that and then we'll continue on. Yay, we're on the second to last step. So I have everything turned under and pressed and clipped in place, and then the strings, you want to make sure that you straighten those out and pin those to the top, because when we top stitch this, we're going to sew right over all of those strings. So make sure you have them straightened out and pinned in the right place. So I'm going to sew that, and then we're ready to release the spring. The top of this is now top stitched and sewn, all sewn together, and I can now take my safety pins out. I'm super excited. It's like release the Kraken, and I can feel that spring jumping out as soon as that safety pin comes out of there. Alright, so then it opens up, and then you can just kind of keep stretching it a little bit so that it fills in that whole windsock. Oh, it turned out super cute. Let's get that last little bit. Alright, up there. And see how it holds the windsock really nice and firm. And I did have one comment from someone about the cotton fabric and, worried about that outside. So, you can always spray this fabric with fabric protector, and that will keep it from fading and that type of thing. So this is such a cute project. I hope that you have a good time making it. I know I really had a good time making it. This was my second one, and I can see several of these in my future for gifts. So that's the project for today. Hope you enjoyed it. So this is our finished project, and it turned out really cute. I love the bright colors. It was very fun and easy to make. I got to use my serger this time. So if you want to see more videos like this, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and also like us on Facebook and Instagram. We also have a website, Pins+Needles Kits.com, and you can purchase our past kits and lots of other fun things on the website. Thanks!